Okay, now? Sorry. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin. Sayyidina wa habibina wa syafi'ina wa nuri qulubina qurrati a'yunina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa barik wa sallim nawaita ta'alum wa ta'anim wa tadhakkura wa tazkir wa nafa' wal intifa' wal ifada wal istifada wal hatha ala tamassuki bi kitabillahi wa sunnati rasulih sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. ودعاء إلى الهدى ودلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى مع لطف وعافية برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنا نسألك العلم لدني ومشرب الصافي الهني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك العلم لدني ومشرب الصافي الهني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك العلم لدني ومشرب الصافي الهني يا وهاب يا غني. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين آمين. Alhamdulillah. Okay, we're continuing with our class, inshallah. Barakallahu fikum. May Allah bless all of you in your efforts in studying. Okay, so inshallah we are moving on today into the haram timings. Right, and so as mentioned, I took you all through Safina to Najah. Right, so a lot of this we've gone through in a lot of detail already in Safina. And in fact, there is a statement, right? There's a saying in amongst the like the whole you say talibul ilm kind of environment. The saying amongst those who study knowledge lah, secret knowledge, that with regards to salat, then alaikum bisafina, bisalah alaikum bisafina. With regards to prayer, if you really want to get excellence in your ilmu, in your knowledge about salat, Safina Najah. You just go to Safina Najah and you learn it over and over and over and over again. It is one of the most comprehensive basic texts on the prayer, on the fiqh, or on the rulings of prayer in the Shafi'i madhab. But with regards to jama'ah, right, with regards to it, ma'mum and qudwa, they call it qudwa, right? Qudwa wa jama'ah, imam and ma'mum rulings, then Muqaddimah. And Muqaddimah has very extensive sections and commentary, right, on the rulings of the jama'ah. In the Shafi'i mazhab, right? So, as I go to the prayer here, you might find that the part in Safina actually has more. You might find it's actually more comprehensive, right, in Safina as compared to Muqaddimah, right? But Muqaddimah, so basically Safina has covered in depth these sections, right? And then in Muqaddimah, you'll find the part about Qudwa, Qudwa meaning Imam and Ma'mum, and all the rulings regards to it. Muqaddimah has more, right? And he has deeper, mashallah. And then later on, you go on into Abi Shuja', right? Abi Shuja', right, will have the other parts, more in depth, inshallah. I think the next book will be Abi Shuja', if I'm not wrong. Okay, Bismillah. Right, chapter on the prohibited timings to perform the recommended prayers. Faslun tuhramu salatu fi ghayri harami Makkah. Right, it is prohibited to perform the recommended prayer at the 5 timings other than in Mecca. So there's the first one whereby, and they always put the first, this is called mutlaq. Mutlaq meaning regardless. Don't ask any questions. If you are in Mecca and then you're in the haram of Mecca and you want to pray, pray. Okay? No question, nothing. Full stop. It's just a full stop. There's no question, nothing, nothing, no more discussion. Okay? If you are in the haram of Mecca and you want to pray, pray lah. Right? There is no condition, there is no timing, there is nothing, nothing to discuss. Right? Those who are in Mecca can pray. Just pray. Pray whatever you want to pray, whatever salat you want to pray. The reason came before, reason came after, reason is during, reason is whatever. Doesn't matter. It does not matter. You can pray whatever you want to pray, whenever you want to pray, for as long as you are in the haram of Mecca. MashaAllah. Okay, so they always put they call it the mutlaq statement. The mutlaq statement is the unconditional statement. There's no conditions whatsoever, right, to this statement. You're just in Mecca, do whatever you want to do. MashaAllah, with regards to the prayer. Okay. And then the first haram timing. All right. Uh, so the first haram timing, right, is when the sun rises, when the sun rises until the length of a spear, right, which is about 16 minutes. Okay, so in our own timing, right? Okay, so if you're like, if you're trying to measure, from the distance, like you want to measure 3.36 meters of the sun rising above the horizon. I must have no idea how to do that. Like, how in the world do you do that? Like, how do you measure the sun? Right, but they apparently know. Okay, these are things that is not our domain. No clue how to measure sun, right? But we know how to see 16 minutes. Now we know how to see. Okay, so we're just gonna see this one. Okay, 16 minutes, right, from sunrise, right? So anytime from the sunrise. So right now, subuh is what, 7:15, or the earlier? Has it moved? It's around there, right? So subuh sunrise is around. No, subuh, I mean sunrise is around 7. And my clock is at the side, but it's around 7. I think what, 14, 13, around there, is it 13? Right. So which means that, okay lah, plus minus, we're looking at 7:30 to pray Ishraq. Okay, if you want to pray Ishraq, you pray around 7:30. Okay, so about 16 minutes past sunrise. So anytime from 7:13 to 7:16, right, to pray a random prayer. Okay, and all of these prayers, they're gonna mention here, okay, right, all of these haram timings is not for all prayers. Right, we mentioned this is a Fitul Najah, and you should be able to recall this, right? Alhamdulillah, right, for learning fiqh book after fiqh book. So even if you forgot what was it in Safinatul Najah about the haram timings, right? Now here they're gonna give you a recap. Right, so every book forces you into muraja'ah. You're forced to muraja'ah. Right, so you have things at your fingertips, right, after going through book after book after book. And it works. This method really works. MashaAllah. May Allah reward our ulama for doing this for us. They know we're not going to muraja'ah ourselves. So they go and do books over onto our books to force us into muraja'ah. Right? Otherwise you won't muraja'ah. This is just the laziness of human beings. Inshallah. May Allah help us. So now, right, so we know that when I speak of all the haram prayer timings, I am referring automatically, right? You should know that I am referring to prayers whereby the reason for the prayer came after the prayer, right? Or there is no reason for the prayer. Right? So salat mutlaq. Right? Salat mutlaq is whereby there is no reason for the prayer. Mutlaq, sunnah mutlaq. Right? Mutlaq again. What does mutlaq mean? You hear me say the word mutlaq, mutlaqan. Right? Mutlaqan, mutlaq. Right? So by now you should be able like kind of get a sense of the meaning mutlaq. What does mutlaq mean? Ay mutlaq. Water that is mutlaq. Timing that is mutlaq. The first statement I say, this is mutlaq. Right? What does mutlaq mean? Mutlaq actually is from the same root word as talaq. Talaq, isn't that divorce? Right? Basically, it is to be set free. Right? So talaq means to set someone free. Right? So when I say mutlaq, that means no strings attached. No strings attached, unconditional. So something that is free. So when I say water that is mutlaq, it means that this water has no conditions. This water can be used for tahara regardless. Regardless of its color or its smell or its taste. Water that is mutlaq can be used for tahara regardless. Regardless, mashallah. Right, so and it's true. Right, so if you find well water, right, that is salty, can you use it for tahara? Answer is yes. If you find river water that is cloudy, right, that is full of chalk, for example, but natural, right, it is the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created the river water. Right, can you use this river water for tahara? Answer is yes. You can, very well. You go ahead. Right, if you, of course, seawater is completely salty, but it's the way Allah created it. Allah created it in that way. Can you use the seawater? Yes. Right. So even like the Dead Sea, the one that is super salty, Yes, use that one. Right. So what if any water that is mutlaq, right? So river or hail or snow or rain or dew or whatever in whatever taste, smell, form that they come in, if it's the way Allah created it, you can use that water. Right? That's why it's called mutlaq. Right? Regardless. It's regardless of the smell, taste, and the properties of the water. Regardless. So when I say sunnah mutlaq, like sunnah mutlaq, what do I mean? I mean a sunnah that is not attached to any reason whatsoever. There's no reason for the sunnah. Right? It's just that I want to pray. Right? Usalli. And we mentioned that the niyat of the sunnah is usalli lillahi ta'ala. You can just say that usalli lillahi ta'ala. Then as you go along the prayer, you can decide how many rakats you want to do. You don't even have to decide at the beginning of the prayer how many rakats you want to do. Just pray. Say usalli lillahi ta'ala. Then you pray. And then after you pray 2 rakats, I think I'm going to go 2 more. Then you pray 2 more. Then after you pray 2 rakats, I want to go 2 more. Then you go 2 more. And then you pray 2 rakats. You say, I'm going to go 2 more. Then you go 2 more. Right? You can do that. You can literally do that. Like until something stops you. Right? So if you're free at the masjid, you say, Salli lillahi ta'ala. Then you begin praying. Pray and 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 pray until the azan. No one's stopping you. Right? But of course, if it's before Zuhur, must stop. Because got haram timing. And of course, Salat mutlaq cannot do during haram timing. Okay. So again, we repeat, right? The 2 types of prayers that you cannot do in the haram timings are only the ones whereby the reason came after the prayer, right? And this is, for example, hajat, surat hajat, and surat istihara, right? Surat istisqa, also, sunatul ihram, right? So all the examples whereby the reason comes after the salat. Okay, the reason for the salat came after. If you're thinking, but why is it that, and I used to wonder this also, why is it that salat hajat, the reason is counted as after the salat? And why, but my hajat came first, what? I had the hajat first. Then I prayed the salat. The answer is, the salat is for you to make dua after the salat. And so you're using the salat as a tawassul with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what hajat is all about. You're using the salat as a tawassul. So you pray the salat, then you use the salat to make your dua. So the reason for the salat is the dua, not the hajat. Same thing for istikhara. And so you don't say like, but I had to make the decision first. I have a decision to make first. I have a decision to make, then I pray the salat. So technically the reason for my salat came before. No. The reason is the dua that came after istihara. That's the reason. So you pray 2 rakats because you want to make dua istihara after the 2 rakats. You see that? Right? So the reason came after the salat. Okay? Same thing for istisqa. It's all of the same nature. They're all the same nature. You pray and then you're going to tawassul with your salat. Right? You're using your salat to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask Him for guidance. Istihara is guidance, for rain, right? There is istisqa. For your need, there is hajat, right? You're using your salat, right, for you to open a door with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Naam. Okay? And also Salatul Ihram. Right? Salatul Ihram is done before you enter into Ihram. Right? So the Ihram happens after the Sunnah. Right? So be very, 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 aware that if you're taking Ihram around Asar time, you repeat Asar. Most people actually do that. They take the Ihram after Asar time. So technically, no Sunnah Ihram lah. Right? Because the Sunnah Ihram happens before the Ihram. So you can't actually do a Sunnah. You just have to take your Ihram. If you ever go and do your Ihram lah. Okay, I know, mashallah. Alright, so that's number one. Number two, the timing of zenith apart from Friday until the shadow of the sun is slightly towards the west. Right, and that day we checked it out. Right, it's just 1 minute before Zuhur. So zenith is actually whatever time is Zuhur. Now probably is 1:20. Is it around there? So zenith, like, probably I would say stop around 5 minutes. Okay, 5 minutes before Zuhur, just to be safe. Don't pray any prayer. Okay, so again, zenith is a misunderstanding in the community that people think is 12 noon. Right, 12 noon is not zenith. 12 noon, the sun is very still much on the east. Still not, it's nowhere near the midday. The sun is still very much on its eastern side. So we're talking about midday. So midday is only a few minutes before Zuhr. Inshallah. Right, so again, what the salat that is prohibited will be the one whereby the reason came after, or the reason there is no reason, right, for the prayer. But prayers whereby the reason came before the prayer, or the reason is during the prayer, right? And these are two types of reason, or two types of prayers, right? So the one that came before, right? Example would be Tahiyatul Masjid, Sunat Wudu, right? All the rawatibs, all your qada's, right? So all of this kind of prayers, the reason came before the prayer. Okay, let me ask you a question. What about Sunat Tawaf? What do you all think? You can answer the question about Sunat Tawaf. What about Sunat Tawaf? Is it came before or is it came after?
Before.
Huh? What's that?
Before.
It's a trick. It's a trick question. It doesn't matter. It's in Mecca. You're in Mecca. Doesn't matter. Right? You tahu kat mana ni? You tahu where else do you tahu? Tahu in Mecca ni. Right. So regardless, before after doesn't matter. Just pray atas Sunat Tawaf. You're in the Kaaba. Yeah. You're in front of Kaaba lagi. MashaAllah. You're right in front of Kaaba. Pray whatever you want to pray. Doesn't matter. Before or after, eh? Yeah, but ihram is outside of Mecca, eh? If you're wondering how come ihram guys got haram? Because your Tan'im is not in the haram of Mecca. Tan'im is outside of Mecca. Someone asked you a question.
So the Haram of Makkah, like, exactly, like, what is the boundary?
There is a precinct. They will put a signboard. You are entering the haram of Mecca. Because they
As long as you're inside.
yeah.
Inside.
Yeah, wherever is this haram of Mecca lah. But there was a signboard lah. That you come in, you find you are in the haram of Mecca, because there are rules with regards to the haram of Mecca. Like you cannot kill trees, you cannot pluck trees, you cannot just kill animals in Mecca and so on. There are a lot of rules in the haram of Mecca, whether or not you are in ihram. These rules apply to every human being who's in the haram of Mecca. It is the sanctuary. Right, so there's no fighting, there's no bloods, there is no spilling of blood, and so on. Basically, there's a lot of rulings. So even the animals are protected, even the plants are protected. Right, it's like, I mean, mashallah, before human beings even had all this, nature reserves. Mecca was already a reserve. Right, nobody can do any form of destruction or harm, right, in the haram of Mecca. Right. I'm not sure how they designate the area lah, but it is something that is known from the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In fact, from before that, Nabi Ibrahim. Right. So it was really designated where is the haram of Mecca. Right. So sorry, it's a trick question. So regardless, but if you're really wondering, is it before or after? It's the reason came after, because you tawaf, then you pray 2 rakats. Right, so the reason came after, but it doesn't really matter. Someone asked a question, no need to renew niyat, no need. Right, for you're talking about sunnah mutlaq, right? The one who asked the question. Right, so sunnah mutlaq, you can just pray however you want to pray. Like whatever, like how Baba Mariam she will say, ala himmatikum, right, on your himmah. You want to pray lah, pray, don't stop. Right, it's up to you. It's really up to you. No one's stopping you. Continue praying. Mashallah, might as well, right? Don't have to salam also. Don't have to pray 2 rakats with 1 salam. You can literally just pray. There's no salams. Just pray.
Oh, is it like, so do you need to sit at any point in the salat, or
You can
every two?
you can do your attahiyah every 2 to help you count, right? So you don't get confused. Like, because you're not supposed to pray an odd number. You're supposed to pray an even number. Odd number is strictly witr, right? So usually we do the tahiyah so we don't get confused. Then we know the last rakaat I prayed tahiyah. That means is the odd one, right? So odd rakaats no tahiyah, even rakaats got tahiyah. And I can definitely see myself get confused if I don't do tahiyah. Like, because you'll be like, alah, already 4 rak'ahs, you get confused, eh? This 4 rak'ahs get confused. Alamak, 3 or 4 already. Dalam want to do 20 in one go. You're wondering, what number am I on? No clue. MashaAllah. But you don't have to actually. There is no compulsion to do the tahiyah, but it's to help you know if you're an even or odd number. Because you can only give salams on an even number. Right? Unless you're praying witr. Then you salams on an odd number. Right? But for normal salats like mutlakan, all that is all even number prayers. Right? So it's just to help you. As human beings, right? Figure out, are you on even or odd? MashaAllah. Already, MashaAllah. All 3 rak'ats to 4 rak'ats already, they're confused. MashaAllah. So weak, the human being. MashaAllah. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. At the time when the sky is now, I said the zenith apart from Friday, the time when the sky is yellowish slightly before sunset until sunset. Okay, so yellowish slightly before sunset until the sun begins to set. Right, sunset itself is haram. Right, so ووقت isfirar حتى تغرب. Right, الشمس. So usually it is at the point of the sun is very close to the horizon, right? And is basically the sunset sky lah. It's a very very yellow orange sky. Right, that one's haram to pray. But of course, right, again, we're talking about the specific prayers. Right, if you have to pray asar, pray lah your asar. Because if you delay your asar, you haram. Right, is sinful on you to delay your asar. Right, so but if you have not prayed it, pray. No matter what color is the sky, just pray what you have to pray. Right. After performing the subuh prayer until sunrise. Okay, so it's after the performance of a prayer. So the first 3 is with respect to the sun. Okay, the first 3 is with respect to the sun during sunrise itself, right? And then until it goes up the length of a spear. Okay, so during the very rising of the sun, right? And then until it goes up the spear, the whole thing takes an amount of time of 16 minutes. The zenith, right, till Zohor, about 5 minutes or less than that. When the sun is close to sunset, yellow of the sky, until the whole sun has set. Okay, means the whole disk of the sun has gone beneath the horizon. Okay, the disk of the sun has gone beneath the horizon. Right, so the first 3 is with regards to sun positions. Right, and this is because this is the timings whereby the worshippers of the sun worship the sun. Okay, so the sun, so the first one is that the shaitan rises in the rising of the sun. Right, so he will, place himself at the sun, and then the sun worshippers, right, they will bow and they will prostrate to the shaitan who is rising together with the sun. Right, it's quite. When I first heard the hadith, it's like, I don't know, like shaitan sounds so desperate. like he wants to be worshipped, so he go and put himself at the sun. So people while worshipping the sun, they worship him, the kind of thing. Like it sounds like quite a desperate case. Like hawla wala quwwata illa billah. It does sound like some sort of insecure individual need to put themselves in a place where people can worship me. Okay lah, I'm making fun of shaitan, eh? Mashallah. But it does sound like that, right? Someone like, no one's noticing me, so I'm gonna put myself in that place. Attention seeking lah, basically. But whatever lah. Okay, anyway, so it is where the people who worship the sun, they worship and they prostrate to the sun when the sun rises, right? And when the sun sets. Right, and it's said that when the sun is overhead, right, that is when the fire of hell is ablaze, right, the heat, right, of that time. So it is not recommended. No, it's not permissible. Not recommended. Not permissible for you to pray all these other prayers in those timings. But those prayers that if, as you mentioned, the reason came before or it is during the timing. As I didn't mention what is during. During would be the eclipse prayers. Right, so eclipse prayers is where the reason is during the prayer. right? So I also have yet in my life to pray throughout an eclipse. It's like what's the goal, things to do in life. Pray from the beginning of the eclipse to the end of the eclipse. Can tahan not? Right, tahan an hour. Eclipse is usually 1 hour long. It is an hour for an eclipse to go past, right? An hour. Right, so can you tahan an hour prayer? Can I? Inshallah. I can pick up a Quran and read the Surah Baqarah lah. And it's just once in our life kena try this sunnah. It's a sunnah of Rasulullah SAW to actually pray the moment the disk of the sun is distorted by the eclipse. Right, the moment you see the disk of the sun or the moon, right, because the eclipse happens during full moon. Right, eclipse of the moon only happens during full moon. If you'll ever notice by the signs of it, it can only happen during full moons. Right, so when the disk of the full moon or the disk of the sun is distorted, right, by the eclipse, when you see it dented, right, the moment it is distorted, the time for solat eclipse has begun. And so you can actually rush and solat. Okay, and then make yourself solat until for more than 1 hour. Right, so you have spent the entire eclipse hour in prayer, not caring to go and take picture of the eclipse. Like, because you are busy with solat. Because tu sunnah. The sunnah is to solat, not to go and take picture of the eclipse. And it's not wrong if you want to take picture of the eclipse. But a lot of pictures out there of the eclipse. I always wonder why people take picture of the eclipse when there's so much nicer pictures online. Kan? Right, the eclipse is so beautifully taken picture of online. And then you want to go there and try and take picture with your mobile phone, and then got cloud everywhere in Singapore lagi. But you can't even see anything. Right. Other parts of the world is so much more beautiful. Like, we always got one like full overcast cloud covering all our eclipses. Mashallah. Yeah, but mashallah, you can make it an intention. The next eclipse, ya Allah, next eclipse. I'm going to try do this. I'm gonna pray for an hour straight. Inshallah. I'm gonna hold the mushaf in my hand and read Surah Baqarah. And do the two ruku and the two standing. At least once in our life. For me, it's my niyat. Inshallah, once in our life, just do this. It's not hard doing an hour of prayer. It's not hard. We do tarawih all the time, inshallah. But it's not standing the entire time lah. We all do like 20 rakats. Right, but inshallah can. Inshallah, niat one day will do. Okay. All right. Muhammad. All right. So 1 to 3 is based on the sun, and then 4 and 5 is based on performance of prayer. Okay, performance of prayer. Number 4 is after performing the subuh prayer until sunrise. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. And then number 5 is after performing the asar prayer until sunset. Okay. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Okay. Alright, so the performance of the prayer time. Alright, so again, the same prayers are spoken about. Right? Prayers whereby the reason came after, or there is no reason for the prayer. Okay. Then he says here, it is not prohibited to perform the recommended prayer if the reason does not come after the prayer, such as missed prayer, eclipse prayer, ablution prayer, greeting prayer of the masjid, recital, and thankfulness prostration, only if one does not intend to delay these prayers to perform it during the prohibited times. Okay, what does last statement mean? Basically, someone who's like, you would say, just trying to be funny lah or something. Right? Because like if someone purposely delays all this prayer just so as to pray during the haram timings. Wala hawla wala quwwata illa billah. Right? Just because you can pray all these prayers during the haram timing, you purposely aim the haram timings. Okay, that one is haram. It's haram to actually aim the haram timings. Like if you happen to walk into the masjid and it's after subuh, right? It's possible. You pray subuh at home, you go to the masjid for a ceramah, right? For a class, and the class could possibly happen before sunrise. It's still subuh timing. It's highly possible this happened, right? And then you pray tahiyatul masjid, right? You're not aiming to pray tahiyatul masjid specifically during haram timings. Like if you live near the mosque, okay, now it's noon. Let me walk into the masjid and pray tahiyatul masjid exactly, not noon, now it's midday, right? It's exactly at midday. Every day I aim exactly at midday to pray tahiyatul masjid. Like, what's your problem, right? don't do that. I don't haram to do. I purposely don't want to respect the haram timings. Right? So purposely every day want to pray during haram timing because can. Right? That one makes it haram. Because that one is mocking the laws of the religion. So the haram is on the lack of adab. Right? On the mocking of it. Okay, it is prohibited to perform prayers where its reasons come after, such as istikhara prayer and the ihram prayer I mentioned just now. It's also prohibited to perform prayer when the speaker is on the pulpit, except if one performs the greeting prayer of the masjid if he's not worried that he will miss the opening takbir with the imam for Friday prayers. Okay, so if the khatib, right, giving the khutbah on Friday is already on the pulpit, right, you are allowed, a man is allowed who comes into the masjid, he is allowed to pray tahiyatul masjid. And in fact, this is from a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whereby he was giving khutbah on the pulpit and a man came into the masjid during Salat Jum'ah, and then the man was about to sit, and the Rasulullah said, or he had said in fact, and said to him, get up and pray 2 rak'ats. And that is because he's teaching sallallahu alaihi wasallam that when you come for Salat Jum'ah and the imam is doing khutbah, it is actually permissible for you to pray 2 rak'ats tahiyatul masjid and then sit down and listen to the Jum'ah, as long as you don't fear missing the first takbir of the Friday prayers. Okay, the opening takbir. So if someone comes in at the end of the khutbah, and you can hear the imam giving salawat to end the khutbah, right? And then the imam doing dua, and everybody's doing amin, 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 amin. And then the imam is going, wa aqulu qawli hadha wa astaghfirullah li wa lakum. Ya ibadallah istaghfirullah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if let's say you're hearing the Imam say all these things towards the end of the khutbah, and he's giving all this istighfar and he's giving all this dua and he's doing and you can hear the ending of the khutbah at any point in time. And in fact, you can even hear the iqamah being said. Iqamah come ready. So don't pray tahiyatul masjid, right? The Jum'ah prayer is about to start. Mashallah. So just pray Jum'ah. Okay, so not to pray tahiyatul masjid. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Naam. Okay, correct. So, and also prohibited to perform prayer when this. Okay, we mentioned this before just now. Yeah, that's all. Okay, so Rasulullah said to the person, get up and pray 2 raka'ats. So he got up and he prayed 2 raka'ats. So that is on the the teachings of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Naam. Okay, let me see. There any questions? Yeah, I can go to NASA for the pictures. So now we all yes.
For the 16 minutes after sunrise, is it regardless of location?
I don't know. I think so. Because I would think different parts of the world, does the sun move differently? Because technically the earth spins. Then again, the earth is not a perfect sphere. The earth is elliptical, kan? So which means there are parts of the earth that go fast. Let's do our maths right now. Right? There are parts of the earth that go faster and parts that go slower. Is it? Is 24 hours in other parts of the world different than the equator? We do go a bigger round because we're at the broadest part of the earth, right? So we take 24 hours to go our entire distance, as opposed to someone at the North Pole who goes like right in 24 hours. Kan? I mean, if you think about it, right? The people at the North Pole and the South Pole, they only go a short distance, technically, right? Right, they go a short distance. If you're to measure their circumference, and their path is very short. We are at the equator. We go around the earth, the waist of the earth, kan? Every 24 hours. Technically, we go faster. So it's our 24 hours. Does our day pass by Never mind. I still don't know. No, it's still 24 hours. It's still 24 hours, right? It's everybody's 24 hours for the Earth to go through one circle, right? But our sun moves faster because our sun has to go across the entire sky in 12 hours. Correct. Whereas their sun, if their day is only 3 hours, technically the sun moves across that side of the sky, right along the horizon. So the sun actually never gets up to a spear's length. Say what spear? The sun hardly even grazes the horizon. Right. So I would think um this kind of no, not I would think I know lah, inshallah. The ruling like of, because it actually brings us back to the ruling of this kind of places. This kind of places, they, for them, they can't take prayer timing if it's impossible for them to take prayer timing with regards to the sun because of the abnormal uh uh phenomena that they go through. Not abnormal lah, but basically unusual. And not it's not the same as the rest of the world, right? Then they will take the closest place that has something that is more usual, right? But it will more or less the rest of the world 16 minutes, more or less for the rest of the world. It should be 16 minutes. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Okay, let's continue. Right, so chapter on call to prayer. Right, so it is recommended to azan and iqama for every obligatory prayer if it's not joined with a missed prayer. This azan is only for the male, whether he is praying alone or after hearing the azan. Right, so it's whether he's praying alone or after he has heard the azan. Right, so even if the masjid has already given the azan, and now he wants to pray, a male wants to pray, whether it's in jama'ah or praying alone, it is sunnah for him to call the azan again. Like, and it's a high virtue for people to call azan. And in fact, if you're at home and there are men in the house, right? If any one of you here have sons, or inshallah you intend in the future when you do have sons, then get your husband, or yourself, train your sons to azan for every waqtu, for every prayer timing. Right, so make it like as how families usually have. My family used to have like a duty roster, right? So we used to, like, every day who will mop and who will vacuum and who will, do the laundry, and we used to have that when I was younger, right? So we have like because we have no helper. And back in those days, we have people to have no helpers, and now everybody got help, right? But when because we all grew up without helpers, right? So the kids do everything, right? Right. So we will distribute the household work, right? So it will be useful, right, to actually have an azan roster, right? If you have men in the house, right? So subuh, right, father will do it, right? And then zohor, oldest son, for example, asar, then second son, maghrib, younger son, okay, and then isha, did I miss out salat? No, right? And then isha, father again. Okay, that kind of thing. I do like a roster, or if the father wants to train his sons, then the sons take turns, right, in a roster. Right, so it's understood who does the azan for each prayer. This brings to life the house. You have to bring to life the house. Right? So you can intend lah, right, that if I have sons, ya Allah, like, or if you do have sons right now, even if it's one son, make your one son do all five, right? And then just remind him of the reward of doing azan. And there are great rewards of being a muazzin. So if you can't be a muazzin in a masjid, then at least be the muazzin of the house, right? And doing azan in the house, inshallah, will chase out the shayateen, and the shaitans will be thrown out. The angels will come in, and blessings will descend in the house. Right? There's a lot of benefit in doing azan in the house. So as Muslims in Singapore, right? I know some people, they complain, oh, Singapore cannot hear the azan from the masjid. Masjid not allowed to put their loud hailers pointing out, to the neighborhood around. The fact of the matter is, we are a minority. We're not majority. So as minority, we can't be demanding, on the society that are majority non-Muslim. Can they are majority non-Muslim. They don't want to hear our azan early in the morning, or middle of the day, or even at night. They don't want to hear it. To them, it's just it's noise. right? So, and it's just our own shortcoming that we're not doing our own azans in our own houses. No one's stopping you from azaning in your own house. Who's stopping you? Azan all you want. Now you can do as loud as you want. You're not going to disturb anybody. It's your house, right? So it's only our own fault that we don't hear azan because we don't train our men to do azan in the house. So for me, when I teach the kids in Mujahali on Saturdays, I will make them azan in front of me. Right? I get all the boys one by one azan in front of me. I train our boys to azan, inshallah, and I'll get all the girls to go and do the iqamah. at least they hafal. You know how many times I pray with people and I'll just turn to my right and say, do the iqamah. Don't want shy, don't want the iqamah. You know, iqamah is iqamah. Come on. Right? There's a lot of virtue, a lot of fadilah in doing iqamah. Right? So don't, if you ever pray next to me and then I say, do the iqamah, don't like, don't want. Like, I'll be like, you're from Mujahalik, right? Yeah, well, lagi I will pinch you or something. Don't tell me you don't know iqamah. Teach you already. Inshallah. Right, but even the kids, I force them. Even when I teach primary 1, primary 2, and if they're praying next to me, I will say it, I want to hear the iqamah. So we should do it as adults. The young ones around us, your nephews and nieces, like train them. It is our amana, our duty. Train them. I want to hear your azan. Can I hear your azan? Can I hear your iqamah? Can I hear your niyat? So you check. After you have learned all this, you can check. Right? Are they doing it correctly? And also, I was just speaking to Ustazah Halima Latif that it's just that a lot of misunderstanding is so widespread in our community that when you learn something, it is on you to inform people, right? So, like things like doing the intention during Takbiratul Ihram. A lot of people don't know this. It's unfortunate. But a lot of adults don't actually do their niyat during the Takbiratul Ihram. They think you do it before and then they takbir. Right? So you need to actually, say. And the easiest thing to do is to say to young ones in front of adults. Right? So like if it's child is like, because to go or to tell an adult directly, it's, a bit hard lah. So if a child is there, your nephew, your niece, your child, you say, are you doing the niyat when you say Allahu Akbar inside your heart? Are you doing it? You must do the niyat inside your heart when you say Allahu Akbar. Say it loudly. Right? So the adults around also hear this. Because a lot of adults are not doing it. Right? And even Fatiha, I've seen adults pray mouth completely sealed. Like this. Fatiha. Right. So then again, I say to the child, you must hear yourself say read Fatiha, okay? You must see your da'wah to the child is da'wah to all the adults right in the area. Your Fatiha, your prayer. MashaAllah. But we were discussing like because we're wondering like, how how do we spread this to more people? It's fardu ain, inshallah. Okay, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Right, so this is about the azan. Right, so inshallah, so it is sunnah for people to do the azan. Inshallah, next week I will continue with the azan part. Okay, barakallahu fikum. Now it's your time, it's your class for Ustazah Alima. She also mentioned you up on your video, She... Okay, anyone has any questions?
Ustazah,
Nah.
for the azan, right? For example, my question is like, is there like a cut-off timing to azan? Like, for example, there's no man in the house, but then like, for example, Maghrib, no man in the house at 7:20 when it's Maghrib, but then like my dad comes home from work at 8. Should he still like azan at 8 or
Can.
just for me?
Can.
Still can.
Can. Right? But women cannot azan, Women cannot azan. Right? So the azan you can azan for as long as before you want to pray. Right? So even if you're doing qada prayers, you can still azan. If someone's doing a qada prayer of some other prayer, they can do azan. No problem. Right? Even if you're doing jamak. When you do jamak takhir, jamak takdim, you actually do azan. Right? So before every prayer there is a sunnah azan, regardless of timing. And before every prayer there's a sunnah iqamah for men and women. Inshallah. Get all your brothers lah, you bad brothers, right? You say, all of you. Come, how many brothers you got? Got 5 more than 5? One salat each. Come on, come. Then they all will. Oh, no. Now,
This sunnah is the kind of sunnah where if you miss it, you cannot do it again, right? Okay. And then you forget, oh, I didn't azan now. You cannot.
oh yeah, dah.
If you
Dah.
miss it, you miss it, right?
Yeah, if you miss it, you miss it. It's gone. Inshallah. Okay, inshallah. Okay, we will start there with today's Sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin.